Well, hello everyone. My name is Steven Ziegler, and I am with a Crafty Situation, and we are the trade show partners for Mosaic Moments. And I am so happy to be recording this video for the Great American Scrapbook Convention for what was supposed to be in Arlington, Texas this year. I am so sorry that the show was canceled due to COVID-19 and we're not able to join you in person. But I'm really happy to be able to join you here on this video. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to be going over some of our great Mosaic Moments products, and I'm going to be building a scrapbook page with you as I kind of introduce you to the products. So what I'm going to be working with predominantly today is our Mosaic Moments grid paper, our basic die set, our Mosaic Moments pattern book and pattern gallery, our repositionable adhesive, and our photos. And if any one or a few of these things sound foreign to you, don't worry, I'm going to hopefully for you explain them in great detail as we go along. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is, as a scrapbooker, of course, we have our photos that we either have printed at home or that we go out to a local photo store, order online, and print. So what I've kind of done is I've printed some photos that I have from last year's baseball season. And I've decided that these 6 photos are the photos that I want to work with on my layout. And I want to use the Mosaic Moment system in order to build just a phenomenal and a beautiful layout. What I've decided, we have over 200 different dies in our die collection, but what I've decided today is I want to go back to the basics and I want to use our basics die set, which is this die set that's featured right here. This is called the Basic Bundle, and what the Basic Bundle has in is it has 6 different die sets that you can use to create hundreds of fabulous pages. The 6 die sets, and I've got them broken out here, include 1 set of squares. So it's basically the squares that we're going to need to fit our Mosaic Moments grid, which I'll explain in a second. And it's got 4 sets of rectangles, 1, 2, 3, 4. And none of these rectangles from set to set repeat each other. So they're all different sizes and different rectangular shapes, or different rectangular sizes to support our grid. And then also with each of these rectangles comes a layering die, which means that I can not only use one of the dies to cut a photo mat for my picture that's going to go onto my layout, but then I can use another die to cut the actual picture. And I will show that to you, like I said, in just a couple of minutes. And then our 6th and final die set that's located in our set is our 1-inch grid die. Now, the reason why Mosaic Moments got started is because our owner and our founder, Tammy Potter, wanted to be able to create mosaic layouts. And what I mean by mosaic layouts is she wanted to be able to take what was normally a 4x6 photo, and at that time, before the advent of die machines, she took a craft knife and a ruler and a craft mat and wanted to be able to cut this photo into 24 1-inch by 1-inch squares. Now, on the typical layout, rather than just using 1 photo, she would use anywhere from 4 to 5 photos. And sometimes a game that she played between herself and her audience was to cut the photos and position them on her scrapbook layout in such a way that you didn't know where one photo ended and the other began. So kind of like a mosaic collage. What's nice about the advent of dies and die cutting machines now is this one die, this last die that I talked about, this 1-inch grid die, rather than you needing to get your craft knife and your craft mat and your ruler out to do the cutting for this, all you need to do is actually position this die over your photograph, run it through your die cut machine, and in one pass, in about 10 seconds, it's going to cut that photo into those 24 1-inch by 1-inch strips. If you have any questions as to kind of what I'm talking about here, we're actually going to use this die and 2 of our photos in our layout to create our layout today. So if you're kind of confused on what I'm talking about, you'll get to see that in just a second. So I've introduced you to the dies here. I'm going to bring these back out and show you why they're different colored in just a second. But the last thing that I want to introduce you to before we jump in and we get started is our grid paper, which is at the very bottom here. I've got a piece of white grid paper that I'm going to be working with today. And our grid paper is interesting because it's the standard 12 by 12 scrapbooking size. So it's used in all of our standard albums and fits in our page protectors and things like that. But what it has on the front of it is it's got a printed grid on it. And the grid is printed 10 squares up and down by 10 squares across. So it's basically 100 squares. And each square measures 1 inch by 1 inch. Now, why we have our grid squares printed onto our paper is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut various elements. I'm going to cut them using my dies, and then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to align those elements up to my grid lines and just cover my grid lines without going over. That way, the final product that my audience sees is a beautiful and finished scrapbook layout that's aligned both horizontally and vertically, has an 1/8 of an inch spacing in between my selected elements, and you can't see grid lines. So your audience is never going to know that you had any help in aligning up your objects, and they're just going to think that you were that darn good with your alignment, or you took a whole lot of time to get this done. Now, like I said, our grid paper is in 12 by 12 here. We have 3 other sizes. We have 8.5 by 11, we have 8 by 8, and we have 6 by 6. In our 12 by 12 size, we have over 100 different colors. We have not only your 60 basic colors, in case you have a favorite color that you like to work with, but we also have 40 what I'll call designer colors. And they're going to be in themes that relate to like cruises or camping. We have something called, for instance, Lazy Days, which kind of reminds you of like summer, and it's got some nice natural patterns for summer layouts. We've got a collection that looks more like tie-dye. So it's got like a tie-dye theme across the whole 12 by 12 layout. So there's a lot of different colors that you can choose from. The solid colors come in 6 packs, so you get 6 sheets of the same color, or tri-packs, you get 3 different colors, 2 sheets each. So it might be black, white, and ivory. You would get 2 sheets of 3 different colors. And then those designer packs that I talked about, they come in 12 packs. And it's 6 different colors, 2 sheets each. So 2 sheets of 6 different colors. Now for today's demonstration, and for purposes of the camera, I'm going to be working on our white grid paper. That way you can see the photos and you can see the elements that I'm going to place quite easily. All right, so we're ready to get started. You know basically the tools that we're going to be working with as it relates to the Mosaic Moments family. The last tool to introduce you to is actually going to be our repositionable adhesive. And I am using Scrapbook adhesive by 3L repositionable adhesive. And the reason why I'm using this particular adhesive, or that I'm using repositionable adhesive, is again, I'm going to be placing my elements onto this grid paper. And when I align my elements, again, my goal is to just cover the grid line without going over. But just in case I make a boo-boo or a mistake, I want to have repositionable adhesive, because what that allows me to do is it allows me to pull that element back up off of my page without either tearing my page or tearing my element. What's nice about this adhesive is it starts off as repositionable, and then within about 24 hours it becomes permanent. You don't need to apply any other adhesive, you don't need to do anything else. It will just move from the repositionable state that it initially is in to that permanent adhesive state. All right, so I've got my photos and I've got my tools. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to figure out how I'm going to position these photos onto the page. Remember how I mentioned with our basic bundle and our basic dies that there was 6 different colors and I had them laid out. There's blue, there's purple, pink, orange, yellow, and our 1-inch grid die is in green. The reason why we have these dies painted these different colors is they correspond with our pattern gallery and our pattern book. Now the pattern gallery and the pattern book are the exact same things. The pattern gallery is available online for you and it's free. You don't need to take a class, you don't need to buy any of our dies. You just need to go to mosaicmoments.com and click on patterns, and you can see all of our different patterns on there. We have over 350 different patterns there. Or if you are like me and like the printed book type approach so that you can take them to crops or things like that, we also have our Mosaic Moments pattern book. What's nice about our pattern book is it's 10 by 10 size, and you can see it's soft back and it's rather small, so it fits really nicely into my crop bag. I just put it right into one of my organizing folders with my 12 by 12 pages, and it's good to go for me. And the reason why I like a book is I like to be able to flip it open, and I like to see pictures and be able to turn pages and things like that. So you can call me old-fashioned in that way, but that's one of the things that I really like. Now, what's unique about our pattern gallery or pattern book, and they both feature the same information, is you're always going to have a sample page that goes along with your patterns, and then you're going to have the actual pattern itself. Now, what's important and what I want to show you, for instance, if you take a look at the pattern here on the right-hand side, on my right-hand page, is you're going to have your sample page up here, and then this is your pattern down here. Now, if you take a look, the pattern has different colors on it. It has blue, purple, pink, and green. Now, what's interesting is when I go to use this pattern, it corresponds with the colors of my dies. So again, blue, purple, pink, and green, I would know that I would need to grab the blue, the purple, the pink, and the green die set in order to make this page. And that the dies that I need in order to make this particular pattern are going to be found in those colored sets. So the blue, the purple, the pink, and the green. Now, for the purposes of today's demonstration, I actually went through my pattern book already, and I came up with a pattern that I really like. So I've got it bookmarked here. I decided that I really like pattern number 119. So pattern 119, what I know about it from the information that it's given is, of course, its number is 119. It's going to use my A, my B, and my mosaic moment sets. Now, from the colors, I can kind of tell what those sets are, but there's also a handy reference in the beginning of this book. But my A set is going to be my blue squares, so I know that it's using my A set. My B set is my purple rectangles. I know it's using my B set. And then my MM set is my mosaic moment set, or that's that green 1-inch grid die. So I know the three sets that I'm going to be using now. The next thing that it tells me is what's called design spots. And what's nice about design spots is that tells me how many pictures this design was meant for. It doesn't tell me how many pictures I have to use, but it tells me that if I want to use up to 10 pictures in this particular layout, I'm able to do that. Now, I have 6 pictures, like I showed you at the beginning of this video, so I know that I have 6 pictures that's well within that range of 10, so I'm going to be good for using this particular pattern, this particular layout. From there, it tells me exactly what I need to use, what dies I need to use from my set A, my set B, and how many grid cuts that I'm going to need to make from my set MM. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second with you again. So again, I've got my pattern 119. Now, so I don't need to keep opening and closing my book. What I've done and what I want to show you is I've actually printed the pattern out from the internet from our online pattern gallery. So this printout is the same pattern that you see here in the book. I've just printed this out, and this is another option that you have if you want to go to crops. You can actually go online to mosaicmoments.com, to our pattern gallery, which again is free, and you can print patterns that you want to use. So I actually, like I said, printed this. It's the same pattern number 119, so that way I can place my book to the side for just a moment here, and I can put my pattern up in the corner here, and grab my dies, and I'm ready to go. So I know that I'm going to build my page based off of this pattern. I also know that I need to use my blue, my purple, and my green die sets. So I'm going to place the other 3 to the side for right now. And I've got my blue, my purple, my green sets for when I'm ready to get started here. Now, I've decided that I'm going to follow this layout exactly the way it's shown here. So I'm going to use the green up here, I'm going to use the purple rectangles here, and then the blue squares at the corner. But there's no reason why you couldn't flip a pattern any direction you'd like. So let's say that you have more photos that are vertical rather than horizontal. Well, you could certainly put them in the vertical fashion just by flipping the layout. Or if you wanted the green mosaic squares to be on the bottom, flip it a complete 180 and you've got them on the bottom now. So I wanted to show you that the patterns don't just need to be used exactly the way they're shown, they can be flipped over if you'd like. Now the other thing to tell you, and one of the tips and tricks to let you know about, is many of us as scrapbookers like to do not only our original page, but we like to do our companion page. One of the other things that you're able to do is you're able to use the same pattern on the left-hand page and then just flip it for the right-hand or the companion page. And what I mean by that is, so you would just flip all of the elements on here, the ones that appear on the left would appear on the right-hand side on your companion page. So like the blue squares here would be, instead of the right side of this page, they would be on the left side of your other page. So that's just one of the tips or tricks that I have if you're looking for a way to build a companion page and you're not sure what particular pattern to use. The reason why we have so many patterns is because once you start using our Mosaic Moment system, we not only want you to love it, but we want you to have plenty of ideas so that you keep using it. So I've got my pattern, I've got my pictures here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lay out my pictures and I'm going to kind of decide what I want to go where. So what I've got here is I've got my 6 different pictures. I've already kind of decided ahead of time, just to let you know, I've looked at these pictures before. I've decided ahead of time what I want to use in different places. And what I've decided is that these 2 photos here on the top left and the center left, I'm going to use for my mosaic layout. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. Then what I'm going to do is for my square picture that's down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to use this photograph here. The reason why I chose this photograph here is because the people or the subjects in my photograph are a lot closer to me than the other 3 photographs. And what that means is I need a bigger area on my grid paper so that I don't cut off anybody's heads or too much of their body, and that I get all 3 of my people into my picture. So that's the reason why I chose that to be my bottom square. And then for my 3 purple rectangles, it's of course going to be the last 3 pictures that are left. So what I've done so far is I've chosen photos that are going to cover this whole green area here. I've chosen 3 photos that are going to cover my purple area, and then I've chosen a photo that's going to cover my blue square. You might ask me, what in the world am I going to do with these 4 small blue squares? Well, I've already planned that out. What we have as part of our Mosaic Moments die collection is we have got alphabets and number sets that we can use. And all of our alphabets and number sets are really neat and unique in the sense that they are all 1 inch and they all fit the grid. So if I've got 4 1-inch squares here, I can use 4 letters or 4 numbers and know that they will perfectly fit into the 1-inch squares. This is our number set number 1, alphabet number 1, and numbers number 1. We've got 4 different sets. So we've got alphabet 2, 3, and 4, and numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well. I've chosen alphabet 1 just because I like the look of it. It's got that stenciled look, which to me, I look at it and it reminds me of baseball in and of itself. So since I'm doing baseball pages, I've decided that I'm going to use numbers number 1. And what I've decided to use in those 4 areas is the year. And that's why I like areas where there are 4 different spots, because I can easily put the year. So what I've done prior to this video, so that I didn't need to waste time, is I've already cut, using my numbers number 1 die set, I've already cut my 4 numbers, 2, 0, 1, and 9. They were cut using white cardstock with my die cut machine. And then I mounted them onto blue squares, blue 1-inch squares that I cut with my blue die set. So that's what I did there. So that's what's going to go in these 4 areas here, and I'm going to apply those in just a second. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on my layout, and I'm going to work on it picture by picture. What I'm going to do though, just for simplicity purposes, is I'm going to save the mosaic at the very top for last. I'm actually going to start kind of at the bottom and work my way up. So I've got my repositionable adhesive. The first thing I'm actually going to do, just for placement purposes, is I'm going to add my 2, 0, 1, and 9. So that's what I'm going to do real quickly here is I'm just going to add those. And again, my point with using my repositionable adhesive and my elements is I want to just align to the grid line without going over. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm putting on the 2, 0, 1, and 9, putting some adhesive on the back. And remember, this adhesive will become permanent over time. I'm just aligning those elements then after I put my adhesive on and just aligning to the top and the left. So I've got my 2 and my 0 on right now. I'm going to do my 1 and my 9. And again, these were cut using numbers 1 die set, the numbers 1 die set, and then my 1-inch square, which is this little guy right here, he was used to cut my blue squares that are the backing or the background for my number, that blue background that you see there. So it's 2 different pieces. The white was cut using the numbers 2 die set, and then the squares, the blue squares underneath, were cut using that 1-inch square from my basic set A. So I've got my date onto my layout. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my big blue square. Now, for my blue square, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my 4 square by 4 square die. That's going to cut either my photo or my coordinating cardstock to exactly fit the grid. What I've decided to do is I've decided that I want to mount my photo. What I mean by mount my photo is I want it to have a photo mat underneath. Now what I've done to save some time is out of my blue cardstock, I have used my blue die, my blue 4x4 square die, and I have already cut my photo mat. Because I've used my die here, I know that my photo mat is going to exactly fit my grid, and so now I'm just going to apply that down. So like I said, the only thing that I would have normally done here in a longer video is I would have taken my blue cardstock and I would have run it through my machine with you in order to create this 4 square by 4 square that I'm going to place down here in the bottom corner. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to add my photograph. Now remember, this big blue square here is my photo mat. So what I want to do is I want to add my photograph. And again, the photograph that I chose to add, I just need to pull it out here, is this photograph here. And what's nice with the basic die set is not only does it come with the dies that fit the grid, so not only did it come with this die here that makes 4 squares by 4 squares, but it also comes with a layering die. And what this layering die is it's just a little bit smaller than the grid, and it allows you to create a nice layer. And what that's going to do is it's going to cut your picture and then show this blue surround. Again, for sake of time, what I've done is I've taken my die and I have cut my picture using that die. So if I pull this die out, you'll see that it exactly fits my picture because I've used that die. And I've cut my picture, and now I'm going to place it right over my square. So one of the things that I like to say about mosaic moments is there's no fussy cutting involved. You don't need to use scissors or snips at all. Everything is done with our dies. So I've got that photo here. Now I've got that mounted. Everything looks beautiful, and I'm ready to move on. The next 2 photos that I'm going to place are these 2 purple rectangles. Now, what I've decided with these 2 purple rectangles is I'm not going to mat those. Rather, I am going to cut those to put those right onto the grid. The die that I need to use, again, is purple. So I'm going to go to my purple set, and I know that it needs to be 1, 2, 3. It needs to be 3 squares by 5 squares. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab that die. It's this die right here off of my purple set. I know it's correct because I'm just going to measure it to my grid, 3 squares by 5 squares. And then I'm going to pull out the photos that I want to use. Now the 2 photos that I've decided to use for this one are going to be this photograph and this photograph here. So what I've already done, again for sake of time, is I've already cut those using this die. So I've already got those pre-cut. They're cut exactly to what the die would have been, and all I need to do now is I need to glue them onto my layout. So I just, before this video started, like I said, I cut these with this die, and now I'm going to add them to my layout. And it's a bigger area, so I'm applying my glue a little bit generously here. if I make a mistake, which I hope I don't on live video, I would pull that right back up, and then I would position it down where it should go. And then I know to expect that within about 24 hours, this would become permanent. All right, so I've got that element down on there now. And then the next thing I'm going to do is work on this rectangle. Now I've decided for this rectangle that I'm going to mat it just to kind of correspond with the matting that I did here. I've got my blue cardstock. I've already cut it with that blue die that we've used before. The same principle applies like it does with the square. I've taken my die, I've cut my cardstock or my mat first, and I'm going to apply that onto my grid paper. And then the very next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my photograph. I want it to be this photo. I'm going to use my layering die from my purple die set to cut this photograph. You've guessed it probably already. I've already done that, and I've already got my finished result. So I'm going to glue that onto my layout. And again, you can see because I've used a photo mat with one of the layering dies in the basic bundle, that it's got that nice blue surround. So we've used our purple dies and we've used our blue dies in order to get the bottom of our layout done. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use our mosaic set, our green die set, in order to do our pictures at the top here. And the way I want our pictures to look is I want them to look like this. This picture is going to be on the left and this picture is going to be on the right. If you've been following along with me, you probably know that I've already cut my photos already using the 1-inch grid die, and this is what they look like after they're cut. So I've got them just on this brown background just so they wouldn't fall apart. But one of the big things that happens, and people will sometimes ask us, is instead of cutting all of the 24 pieces apart, it actually cuts into strips. And the reason why it cuts into strips is that way you're not putting a 24-piece puzzle back together. But one of the other nice things about it cutting into strips is you can also take your tape runner, and rather than having to apply tape runner to each individual square, you can just run it across the back one time, and then that's all you need to do. Now, I'm going to show you that my layout here, I need 4 squares down, so I need all 4 of these squares by 5 across. So one of these squares I'm actually not going to use, which I've already pulled apart. But I'm going to use the other 5, and I'm just going to move my layout down a little bit for my purposes here. Hopefully you don't see too much of my big head in the camera here, but I'm going to just apply my squares here. So purposes of time, what we'll do is we will speed this up a little bit here, and I will come back with you when I am finished applying all of my squares. Okay, as you can see, we are back, and what I've done while I took a brief second here is I've applied my squares for both my left photograph and my right photograph per the pattern that's here. So now my page is complete. So you can see how quickly and easily I was able to do this mosaic page using my pattern number 119 and using my 6 different photographs. I added 2 mosaics up at the top here, as well as 4 nice sized photographs. It's really nice and appeasing and appealing to the eye, and it also has my date down here as part of my journaling. So again, this came from our basic die set. That was our die set that had our 5 different dies in, and I'll grab it right here for you. Our basic die set, as well as our pattern book, a 6-pack of grid paper, and the leaf silhouette die is going to be on sale for you this weekend in case you wanted to try out our beautiful mosaic scrapbooking. So we'll have that on wonderful sale for you at craftysituation.com. Again, you're going to go to craftysituation.com, and that website name is up on the top left-hand corner of your screen. And then I just wanted to show you some other layouts that you're able to make once you get started. So these 2 layouts come from our Focus on the Photos die set and Focus on the Photos crafty box, which is also on sale. All of these will be on sale for you. This is our diamond mine page on the left here that we made with the hot air balloons. This is our Soleil page that we made. The baby page here in pink is featuring our trellis dies. Our sea turtles are our dynamic die set. And then we've got some other pages here. This is actually a crafty box in a class that we're going to be teaching. This is called Fall in Love with Mosaic Moments, using our craftsman dies and that same basic layout, basic layouts that we created with our baseball page. This is a page that we created with that leaf silhouette die that comes free with your basic bundle. And again, we used our letters here. This is letters alphabet set number 2 and our basic dies. This contains our 1924 die. And this is our soft grid die that we created with this page. This is our focus on our photos pages again. And then this is our horizon dies. Same basic principle, cutting out our cardstock and cutting out our photos. Now, what's interesting and beautiful about Mosaic Moments is, let's say that you like a particular layout, but you're not quite sure how to create it. We actually have over 200 different YouTube videos available for you. So once you buy a die set, if you want to know how to particularly use it or to create things with it, you can refer to those YouTube videos. So those were horizon. This is now quarter pie and clover. And then this is our on the dot set. These are pages that we just made last weekend for a different class that we taught. And then we have another dynamic page and one of our X Factor pages. So these two pages here are X Factor. So as you can see, I have hundreds of pages here that we've created using that same model that we talked about, where we choose our patterns and choose our dies based on the photographs that we have, and then we work just on building our pages off of our grid paper. Again, 90 different colors, or over 90 different colors for our grid paper, over 350 different patterns available online, and 250 different patterns available in our books. I hope you enjoyed this promotional video for Mosaic Moments in a Crafty Situation. Everything that I've shown here during this video will be on sale for you this weekend. Visit craftysituation.com to shop, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much and have a great day.